Okay guys, it's Tuesday the 10th of October and we're on the FTSE 100. Just entered into an early morning short today at 8:15 a.m. The market has rallied since the 8 a.m. open. We've had a strong move up into this zone at 7524. Now, the market has been very bullish. Yesterday we saw a bearish reaction. Market came down, actually came all the way down to around about 7490. Now the market has pressed back up toward yesterday's highs, and I was happy to look for further weakness because with this market we are now approaching the all-time highs on the daily time frame. So although we've had a very strong rally, we've had very little pullback on that rally. So the trade today, I'm really looking for some sort of a correction, really down toward the previous swings down here at around about 7507. If we get down there, what I may do is close partial profits, close 75% of the trade out, and then run profits down toward the lows at around about 7500. So we'll see how we get on with this one. I'm really hoping for a nice early morning movement. I was on holiday at the weekend, went for a short break into Iceland, so this is my first day back trading. I was going to try and trade yesterday afternoon. However, by the time I got back, I was absolutely exhausted. We had to leave our hotel at 3 a.m, unfortunately, so by the time I got home, I just wanted to have a bit of a sleep. So what I'm going to do, I'll pause the video as always. If the market comes down into this 7512.5 level, this is a level of support for me. So it was resistance early morning. We broke up above. Resistance, when it breaks, often becomes support. So I want to watch for reactions down here if we see the market pressing down into the levels. I'm hoping for it to come down, as I've mentioned, toward the 7507 to 7508 area at a minimum. Okay guys, so we've reached that first target level and I have locked in partial profits. I've locked in 75% of the trade and I have also brought my stop down to break even. So we're completely protected now. If we drop down toward really the 7502 level, I will just close out the remainder of the trade. I'm also watching for reactions down in this area. Now, with this trade, it is worth going over because I know it's one of the things that people struggle with. With this trade, we pressed up into this area and then we got the pin bar. Now, after we got the pin bar, the market tried to break down a number of times. And you can see we had the bulls stepping in and pressing this market back up into the zone. We actually got a strong bullish candle at 840 right here, pushed it right back up toward that 7524 level. Now, when this happens, when I'm in this trade, I am thinking that the trade is going to lose. In fact, I would say probably 70% of the trades that I get into, within sort of 5, 10, 15 minutes, I'm expecting for the trade to be a loss. It's just the way that my mind works. And I do a lot of things to quieten down that voice in my head, but for the most part, that is the little niggling thought that sits at the back of my head. And I know it is the thought for most people, especially beginners. But the thing is, when you're in the trade, instead of just facing that fear of losing the trade, I actually emailed I was speaking to one of the subscribers earlier on today, and I joked that, especially when I was learning, I would, when it was a frustrating day, or let's say I was in a bad trade, I would be pulling my hair out. And I said as a joke, that's one of the reasons why I've got so little hair left. But the only difference is, as you begin to trade more and more, and as you begin to understand trading and become a trader, the only difference is that I'm not allowing that voice to take control. So I'm still looking at the market. Although that is happening in my head, it's saying, oh, you're going to lose. You should have exited this trade, you shouldn't have got in the trade, you should have waited for a stronger setup, all of those things. The way to combat it is, first of all, before you get into the trade, make sure everything for the trade lines up the way you want it to line up. If there is anything in that trade when it's lining up that you think, well, that's not quite right, it's not quite what I look for, but I'm going to take this trade anyway. If you do that, the second you get into that trade and it starts to move against you, which is going to happen on 90% of the trades, you're going to start to panic. And the reason you're panicking is because you have an area where you can doubt yourself. And as soon as that area is there that you can doubt yourself, it's going to start to, snowball in your mind. It's going to get bigger and bigger. Every time the market moves against you, it's going to make you start to panic. And what you're going to likely do is either take the loss or you're going to start making mistakes managing that trade. So that's the first thing you need to do. And then when you're in the trade, you need to work through what is going on in your head. So although it was telling me that, after we've seen this one, certainly, in my head, it was thinking, okay, very likely, this is going to push up, it's going to stop you out. Stupid trade, you shouldn't have taken the trade, blah, 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 blah. Although that's going on in my head, what I'm also doing is looking at the trade and I'm thinking, okay, if this trade starts to break up, am I going to exit this trade? Is there a reason for me to exit this trade? And well, then I'm looking at, okay, well, this market has been in an uptrend on the daily time frame. So there is the potential here for a bullish run-up. However, we have first hesitated up at these levels, and then yesterday we've seen a bearish movement. Now, we've seen a bearish movement, but for me, it did not pull back into key levels of structure on the daily time frame. So what that's suggesting is there's the potential there for another bearish movement. It doesn't mean the corrections are going to come in very, very strong, but what it means is there's the potential there for the bears to at least step in and attempt to make it to happen. So it makes sense in terms of my overall analysis. And then I'm looking at, okay, well, I've got those reasons for the trade. I'm in the trade. Now, let's say the market does start to break up. Is there a reason for me to come out of the trade before my stop? And I'm looking at things like, okay, well, let's say this market started to break up. Then it started to give me a pullback, but it started to hold. And it started to give me bullish signals. Then, potentially, I would have come out of this trade. Just because we've been in such a strong uptrend. And what that's doing is it's giving me something to focus on other than, oh, I'm going to lose this trade. This trade's going to move against me. I need to get out. It's giving me something technical to focus on that I need to look at. I need to see that before I can come out of the trade. If I don't see that, then this loss is simply going to be a loss which is part of trading. So I've already got that in my head, and that's allowing me to focus on that as well as that overall panic. Now, then the market started to come down here, and then we started to get further strong bullish reaction. This, you've got to remember, when you see a pin bar like this, at one point it was a very strong bullish candle. Now, when I was first beginning, that sort of thing would really freak me out. And I used to make a lot of mistakes because of it. I'd see this moving up very strongly, and I would come out of the trade. And I would reverse the trade sometimes and try to go bullish, even though I'm trading right into one of the areas that I know is resistance and that my analysis has told me to look for sells in. It's that panic taking over. It's that voice coming forward. So another thing I do is I don't make any decisions until the 5-minute candle closes. So that just means if it is pushing up very strongly, so let's say this candle was forming, my stop was sitting here and I was selling, even though this was doing this, I would not come out of the trade because I'm waiting for the 5-minute candle to close. It hasn't done something that I've already decided on in my mind to exit if I see it. And then, if your analysis is good, you're quite often going to be panicking, and then the market is still going to come down and do what you were wanting it to do anyway. When you're learning to trade, if you want to become a trader, it's so important to just learn coping mechanisms when you're trading. It's almost impossible to completely kill the voice in your head that is going to be trying to make you make mistakes and trying to make you panic. It's just, it's part of human psychology. All we can do is learn ways to deal with it. I posted a video when I was away in India, actually, which is, it covers some of the methods that I use to deal with the uncertainty when trading and that panic when trading. It's really, really good. It's not going to make you some sort of robot. Some people think that if they've been trading long enough, they're just not going to care. You are always going to care because you're going to lose money if you lose a trade. It's just human, it's the way we react because we've been raised and because we know that money is what we require to live. So we attach value to the money. And if we start to lose the money, then we start to feel bad. It's just human psychology. All we can do is learn ways to cope with it. So, okay, what I'm looking at now is how are we going to hold here? If we do continue to hold and we start to break up, I will likely just come out of the trade around about... See, the problem is looking at this, there's the potential for the retest up into 7.516. May see that retest before we then see further bearish action. If it does come up there, it's likely going to come up and take me out at break even. So what I'm looking for is the signs that potentially we're going to see that bullish run up. If I start to see those signs, I will just come out of the trade. Now, if the market had been overall bearish, I would likely let it run for longer. But because it isn't, because it's been very bullish, just because I'm looking for that correction, doesn't mean the correction is going to come in today. I'm trading counter trend here. So I want to be a little bit more careful, and if we don't see the reaction, if we don't see us popping down to that 7502, around about 7502, I will just come out of the trade a little bit early. Okay guys, so the market has popped back up. It's came back toward where that stop was at break even. It has actually taken me out at break even on the remainder of that position. Now I was looking for the bullish sentiment down here. We really got it at 9.45. This is what I was looking for. By the time this finished forming, it was so close to the stop, I just let it run. The market then popped up and it has taken me out at break even. So 75% locked in down toward the previous swings as mentioned. That's where we found support. I brought the stop to break even and it popped up and took me out for the remaining 25% at break even, or just a tiny little bit of profit. I usually put my stop just below that break even line. Again, it's just to do with my personal psychology. I prefer coming out of a trade with a very small profit rather than just break even. Just, when you see a little bit of profit on your P&L, it's better than just seeing a zero. Okay guys, so as always, I hope that was helpful. I hope you've all had a good trading week so far. I'm James Orr and thank you.